19-year-old Brandon comes into the game with a big secret.
Russell Hantz is my uncle.
But do the uber villain traits run in his nephew's veins?
I want to take that same determination, but in a slightly different way. I'm definitely going to play my own game. I just have different standards than he does. There's some things that I will not do, and there's some things that I will do. We're just different in that way. I love my uncle.
He's actually a really likable kid. You would never think he was related to Evil Russell. The big key with Brandon, he has to keep it a secret that Russell is his uncle.
I understand what I'm going to be stereotyped as a villain. I mean, that's why I would rather not reveal my last name. So if I get voted out, it's going to be because of my personality, not because of Russell. $1 million would do a lot for my family. We've been through a lot, man. It's not easy being 19 and having a family, but I'm doing this for them, so it's great. They're going to have to pull me out of here on a stretcher in order to get me off this island, I guarantee you that.
Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else in hopes that it all ends in a satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time they're introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. Now, for reference, we are only observing what the TV show is showing us and what stories being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story characters here have no idea about what happens in those future seasons. I will be utilizing secret scenes and behind the scenes footage to flesh out the story, and all character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And now with that,
39 days, 18 people, 1 survivor.
Survivor is back in Samoa for the first time since Heroes vs. Villains, and yet it is doing everything exactly the same as it did in Season 22, Redemption Island. 2 returnees, Redemption Island itself, of course, no tribe swap, and all the same twists at the same exact time in the game. No surprises here, which means everyone theoretically should know exactly what to expect since this is filmed after Season 22 aired on TV. Brandon Hantz, 19 years old and married with a kid, is our protagonist for this tale, and yes, he is the nephew of Russell Hantz, who he compares to Hitler, but he says he wants to redeem the Hantz family name. So as both tribes arrive at the beach, Jeff says,
2 more people are going to be joining you in this game. Let's bring them in.
I'm a little bit nervous to see who it is.
I hope it's not Russell.
Oh my goodness, dude, that would suck.
I hope it's not Russell.
Me either. The lady next to me, she goes, oh my God, I hope it's not Russell Hantz. I will never, ever tell them my last name. They're not gonna think I'm a Hantz, as long as I keep my shirt on, because this tattoo says Lil Hantz on it.
Ozzy and Coach are here in almost a nonsensical twist. Rob versus Russell made sense. This is a matchup that has nothing to go off of at all. Christine of the Blue Upolo tribe calls them both temporary players, a big mistake on her part. And we see Ozzy go to the red tribe and Coach goes to the blue tribe where Brandon is. Coach hates Russell, by the way. This should be interesting. They arrive at their camp and immediately Coach says, hey, I'm not some strategic juggernaut, I play as straight as an arrow, which Brandon likes, and in fact Brandon says he wanted Coach over Ozzy for this reason alone. Coach says, as a man of God, I cannot change who I am. Interesting, because what we've seen of Coach's religious beliefs, at least in Tocantins, because we didn't see it in Heroes vs. Villains really, were very self-focused and not at all Christian. So I am unsure if what he is saying is actually good or even true. But then people start spotting Brandon's tattoos.
By the way, what's this right here, man?
Loco, man. It's
Loco?
Yeah.
You mean because you're a bull rider?
I'm ashamed of that tattoo, man. I have a tattoo on my neck that says Loco. In Spanish, that means crazy. So right off the bat, people are gonna start looking at my neck and, thinking I'm really crazy. At one point in my life, I kind of was crazy, but, it was a childish thing I did. I tried to act like Russell in high school. I was bullying everybody. And I'm really not like that. You know, I'm a different person now. I've grew up a lot. God's number one for me.
He is 19 years old, married with a kid. There is no way Brandon had an easy time as a teenager. He seemingly has the wear and tear of a 29-year-old. But then Brandon sees how attractive Michaela is and says she is a temptress, and as a married man, he needs to keep himself separate from her. Okay. She has to like you too, dude. And the show has given zero indication that she is doing anything. We then see an alliance made on night 1 between Coach, Albert, Sophie, Rick, and Brandon, saying this will be the final 5. They say if we need to, we can loop in Edna to be our +1, but this is the core 5. Seems legit, and Brandon says unlike Russell, who lacked in the social game, he actually wants to succeed in it and provide for his tribe, which he does by catching fish, and he will be doing this as long as he is in the game. Their tribe then wins immunity, and that is it for the premiere, and I must admit, Brandon is a compelling character considering his past, who he is related to, and the fact that he wants to play a noble game. Had we seen just another Hantz trying to be like Russell on the season, that would have been boring. But Brandon is not boring. By the way, did you know that Patreon is free to sign up for? Yes, that is the place where I give updates, post videos early, and have you all pick what I make. Now has a free option. Link in the description, you can cancel anytime, and there's a 15% discount if you do sign up for 1 year. Thank you for your support. Episode 2 sees Brandon out fishing again, providing for his tribe, and Edna calls him the new Aussie. If this weren't a secret scene, I would label this moment heroic, of course, for Brandon, but it's not part of the official story. We then see Coach and Brandon talk, and since they have a bond with mutual respect, Brandon decides to come clean.
Lying to Coach was tearing away at everything I believe in. And I'd rather people know me for me. Want to see something cool?
What's that?
It says Lil Hantz. I'm Russell Hantz's nephew. Just keep that on the DL.
So I take a walk with Brandon, and he tells me that his uncle is my #1 nemesis, Russell Hantz. My jaw literally drops. I'm gonna just tell you, man, like, I don't want to be played a fool twice.
Coach, I took a huge leap there, bro. The only reason I did that is because I've made an alliance with you. And that's why I told you. If it bites me in the butt, I still feel good about it because I let you know. Coach played the game with my uncle, gave him his word, and it didn't work out, but I don't plan on stabbing Coach in the back. He's my alliance, and I'm a man of my word.
I've been watching Brandon from the first day because I felt like we had a connection right off the bat. And clearly, he has nothing to gain by telling me that information. So I think that he's true to his word. So it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be Coach Wade duped once again in Survivor, or it's going to be redemption for the Hantz family. I hope it's the latter.
It is day 4. I am not saying it would have been easy to keep the secret for all 39 days, but I would have kept it to myself for much longer so that people really get to know you before you drop that kind of bomb on them. I admit though, there's no perfect answer for when to reveal this. I mean, I guess in a world where everything works out, Brandon reaches Final 3 and reveals his relation at Final Tribal, that would have blown everyone's minds. They hopefully would have had no idea. He then says, I really don't like Michaela, and compares her to Parvati. This show does absolutely nothing to support what he is saying though about her. Their tribe loses immunity, and Brandon says, Michaela's got to go. He even tells Coach that, hey, we gotta look out for her because she's like Parvati, and Parvati has screwed many a man, which has Coach laughing, and he agrees. And it's a small moment, but I find it funny. So anyways, the real plan is to split the votes between Christine and Stacy in case one of them has the idol. Brandon is still pushing for Michaela though, as he says she has every guy here wrapped around her finger, except for me. The show paints him as delusional. Nothing we have seen even indicates Michaela is flirty, let alone another Parvati. She's just like a good-looking woman on their tribe. That's about it. Brandon is going crazy. At Tribal Council, there is much discussion about who threw out Michaela's name, with accusations being thrown around until Brandon says, it was me, I did it. He does this in an attempt to come clean, but instead it makes him appear as a wild card who cannot keep a secret. So they all go to vote, and
Second person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Christine. Christine, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 3 has Michaela confused, and for good reason. She doesn't understand why Brandon wants her out, as she can't think of anything she has done. Brandon feels incredibly bad and says, I want to be a hero who is honest and not like the lying villain that my uncle was.
I really wanted to take off my shirt really bad. try to win shit all the time. My name's Brandon Hantz. I'm Russell Hantz's nephew.
Blam.
I'm sorry.
Are you really?
Are you really?
Wow.
And I'm not the same person that he is. I apologize for that, and I accept the consequences of what I did. I'd rather make friends out here than $1 million.
Oh, you have hands on your arm.
On my back.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't believe nobody noticed that.
Can't judge a book by its cover.
I'm Brandon Hantz. I'm me. I love God. I love Jesus Christ, and I shouldn't be ashamed of the fact that I'm a different person than my uncle.
Brandon told the tribe that he was Russell Hantz's nephew. A mistake, in my opinion, but he needed to get it off his chest. And that shows Brandon's age a little bit. He lets things get to him and weigh him down.
And it's not a cool thing, man. When you think about it, manipulation's manipulation, no matter how you code it. It doesn't matter if I'm manipulating you, if I'm not manipulating you, if I'm manipulating everybody else.
Right.
So much wisdom, and yet he is so naive. Michaela then talks to him and he is honest with her, but his honesty is so blunt that it might as well be a weapon as he proceeds to make this discussion a public one where he exposes that she's not in the power alliance, she's an outsider, which is true, but there is no reason to shame her like this. In fact, she didn't even ask. He didn't have to tell her. Sophie says Brandon is a loose cannon in their alliance, and I wouldn't be surprised to see his alliance consider cutting him sooner rather than later with this behavior on display. We then see Brandon saying, I lost my temper and I really shouldn't have. He says he struggles daily between good and evil, good and evil, and good and evil. He's just tired of sinning. Now, I personally see someone who is so guilt-ridden, and I think that he's possibly a brand new Christian. It's like his eyes have recently been opened to what is wrong and right, like a child. And I'm not saying he's a child, but he is 19. And that's just my assessment of where I think Brandon is as a Christian, because he's very adamant about his faith. Coach is struggling too. He's struggling with Brandon's aggression, as he says, sure, it's different from Russell's aggression, but it is aggression nonetheless. Their tribe wins immunity, and in episode 4, Brandon says his pride has caused him to struggle, so he apologizes to Michaela again, and she says he needs to think before he talks because he looks foolish otherwise. Let me put it this way, hurt people, if that makes sense. Brandon then comes clean to Edna about the alliance. You see, she thinks she is part of a 6, but Brandon says no, it's a 5, and you're the +1. Edna takes this extremely well, all things considered. But remember that Brandon told her this and that she accepted it, because that's what happened, she accepts it. Brandon then continues his apology tour at the Redemption Island Arena, where he apologizes to Christine for how he treated her, and she says, I accept your apology, but I don't buy it. We then go to the immunity challenge where, despite Upolu losing, Brandon sets a new record for weight being held at 240 pounds. I mean, just look at him. It's amazing. Back at camp, Stacy lies to Brandon and says, hey, Albert and Sophie are up to something. Brandon tells Coach, who says, come on, man, Stacy's clearly lying. At Tribal Council, Russell's brought up yet again because you really can't go an episode without bringing up Russell, and Brandon compliments Russell's game and says, hey, I mean, he played a great game, but I want to play my own game, which is followed by Michaela saying she cannot get over that Brandon is a Hantz and she doesn't like him.
I just want to be somebody that God's proud of. I don't want to be misrepresented to my family, because it affected my family big time when this whole thing went down with Russell. And you can only protect him so much, bro. I mean, when you see what he done, it's like the proof's in the pudding, you know? You can't help somebody who's done that to himself, but what do you do?
So you feel a responsibility to reclaim the family name in a positive light?
I'm gonna do it. You know, if I haven't already told him already, I'm gonna do it.
Brandon's heart seems to be in the right place. He's just so young and immature, and he's definitely emotionally driven. I feel for the guy. Stacy's voted out, and in episode 5, he says that if he cannot win this game by being a good guy, then he doesn't want to win. Ah, the million hearts approach. His tribe wins immunity, which is then followed by him pointing to God in thanks, and the editors added in a bell noise when he does this. With that win comes a clue to the idol on their beach, and Brandon looks and looks and looks, and no idol. Baffling. We then see Edna and Rick talk about Brandon in this secret scene.
What did you think about Tribal last night?
What did I think about Tribal? That was ugly, you know?
Yeah.
He's got to quit having meltdowns or we're going to be in trouble.
Brandon can't play this game. Like, the world is very black and white to him, not shades gray, which in reality it is. I don't know if he's, like, designed for this in this phase of his life.
Right, I know that he's not, but I mean, he's honest, and you can use that.
But it's like the third time.
He'll be fine. I'll keep him under control. Brandon's eruption at Tribal Council last night confirmed to a lot of people that he really doesn't have any business in this game. Brandon is honest. Brandon is loyal to a fault. I mean, that's the thing. But, you know, I really have the hope that I can channel the honesty into the right direction. 90% of Brandon is Russell in his stubbornness. Russell just wanted to be stubborn to play the game evilly. Brandon is stubborn to play the game with good. But the demons inside of him will have to be wrestled in order for him to just be at peace, let alone survive in Survivor.
Their tribe loses immunity, and Albert says, I know Michaela is supposed to be next, but Edna is weaker. She cannot help us in challenges, so Brandon at Tribal Council calls out his tribe for even considering flipping on Edna. He says, things are black and white, there is no gray, and he will say this many times this season. He says, we need to be loyal to Edna. Money is nothing, characters forever. So they all vote, and
6th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Michaela. Michaela, the tribe has spoken.
Brandon needs to cool his jets and calling people out publicly. That stuff will not fly come the merge. Edna says Brandon being a wild card is bad for his game, but great for hers. And we then see Coach doing massive damage control by letting everyone know that, hey, I know Brandon flies off the handle sometimes, but he is loyal. Despite that, Brandon is like a madman looking for the idol on their beach, which leads to this.
So right now, Sophie, Albert, and I know that I have the idol. But people like Rick and Brandon, Edna, want to find the idol. So we've got to pretend like, look, we found it.
Father, we just thank you, Lord, for keeping us safe. Father, thank you, Lord, that we're going to find this idol, Father God.
You know, this whole prayer thing, for me, it doesn't weigh as heavily on my mind because I'm not the one speaking the prayer. I find Coach to be a little more questionable when he actually is the one saying, you know, dear God, help us find the idol, when he knows he has the idol in his pocket. It gives me a little bit of a nicky feeling.
What we need to do is we need to just make a quick detour before we go back to camp and grab the idol, come back and just say, this is our day. This is our day.
Yeah.
Take a look.
Get over here, guys.
Take a look.
No way.
Woo! Look at that, baby!
We actually all said a prayer, asked God for help to find the idol, and we just hear we found the idol, not even 5 minutes after we got done praying. Pray together, stay together. Awesome, brother. It's definitely an advantage having the big guy upstairs on your tribe.
I said it before, and I'm going to say it again pretty clearly. Coach is yet to show that he's a real Christian here or in Tocantins. No real Christian who actually follows the Bible utilizes Jesus to lie and manipulate others. It is unbiblical, and it is hard not to feel bad for Brandon as he is clearly trying to do the right thing and he's being taken advantage of. Their tribe wins immunity, and when they do, Coach makes a point to force his tribe to publicly pray. It seems weird and forced considering what we just saw with the fake idol hunt. Episode 8 sees everyone attend redemption, as it is Christine who somehow has magically survived every duel versus Ozzy. Really? Ozzy? Why would his tribe vote him out? Well, his terrible acting combined with common sense shows that obviously Savai sent him to redemption to eliminate Christine, which he does, and they're merged. Their tribes are tied 6-6 with no one on Upolu budging or even showing a hint of wanting to flip. Their tribe is convinced that they are a family, and Coach is essentially running a cult, as is stated by many other players throughout the season. But Savai has a weak point, and that weak point is Cochran. Coach works over Cochran good, and it doesn't take that much actually to have Cochran spilling the beans on his tribe's plan, and Brandon tells him, hey, if you flip to us, I'll protect you. They can't get you if I'm protecting you. We then see Ozzy and Dawn win immunity, and they also have an idol. Jeff clarifies at Tribal Council that, hey, if there's a rock draw, whoever has votes against them, aka whoever the tie vote is between, will not have to draw rocks, they will be safe. Meaning that theoretically, Savai, who has both immunities and is going to play their idol, will only have 2 people eligible to draw rocks and Upolu will have 5 since Coach is just going to sit on his idol as long as he can. The odds are not in Upolu's favor, so they all go to vote, and
If anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so.
I'll play it. Might as well. Now's the time. It's for Whitney.
This is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast for Whitney will not count. First vote. Keith. Rick. Keith. Rick. Keith. 3 for Rick. 4 votes, Keith. Cowboy. Rick. That's 5 votes, Keith. Rick. That's 5 votes, Rick. Keith. 6 votes, Keith. Rick. We are tied. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to re-vote. You can only vote for Keith or Rick. Keith and Rick, you will not vote. If anybody is thinking about changing their vote, this is your last chance. First vote. Keith. Rick. Keith. 2 votes, Keith. Rick. 2 votes, Rick. That's 3 votes, Keith. Rick. 3 votes, Rick. Keith. 4 votes, Keith. 4 votes, Rick. Keith. 5 votes, Keith. 8th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Keith, need to bring me your torch.
Coward.
Keith, the tribe has spoken.
Coward. Don't talk to him like that. That's what you get. Stay close to me.
Cochran flipped. Wow, I mean, it's incredibly stupid if he wants to win the game, but this isn't Cochran's video, it's Brandon's, and all of a sudden, Brandon seems locked for a final 3 as he has a deal with Albert and Coach, who likely see him as a wild card goat they can drag to the end. When Ozzy confronts Cochran after Tribal, Brandon steps in to defend him, and Ozzy's like, dude, I'm not in a gang, I'm not about to attack Cochran, I just want to talk to him. The next day, Ozzy brings back some fish and says it feels weird to be feeding the competition, and Brandon says, that's a weird thing to say, and it is why playing a selfish game like Ozzy doesn't work in Brandon's eyes. You cannot win being selfish for Brandon. We see Jim win immunity as if it matters, as the target is squarely on Ozzy's back, so they all vote, and
You have been trying to get me out since week 1, so I don't think it's that inappropriate for me to be voting for you.
First vote. Ozzy. Ozzy. 2 votes, Ozzy. Ozzy. 3 votes, Ozzy. Cochran. Cochran. Ozzy. That's 4 votes, Ozzy. 2 votes, Cochran. Ozzy. That's 5 votes, Ozzy. 9th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Ozzy. That's 6. That's enough.
You guys fell for my master plan.
Ozzy. Once again, the tribe has spoken.
the next day at the immunity challenge, Jeff says if you want to not compete and eat food, you can. So all of Upolu plus Cochran do just that, and it looks so cocky. Upolu is the villain and Savai is the underdog. Whitney wins immunity, again, as if it matters. At Tribal Council, we then see some miscommunication, or possibly both people are right, depends on how you look at this. Dawn says she sees everyone here as one big tribe. I'm not sure how she sees that, there's been a very clear division the whole time, and Brandon says Dawn is just being manipulative. Who is right? Who knows? Brandon does say openly in front of everyone though that they will not stop until all of Savai is gone. While true, it did not need to be said in such an us versus them way. So they all vote, and
10th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific, Jim. Jim, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 10 sees Coach being a hypocrite. This is par for the course, as he says, I try not to judge people, and then proceeds to vilify Jim after he's already voted off. Ah, good, Coach. I'm glad you don't judge people. Ozzy eliminates Jim and Keith at the Redemption Island Arena, and we see Brandon lose a chicken that they got from a reward. Not good. Brandon then spots Albert talking quite a lot with the Savai members they plan on voting off, so he snitches this to Coach and says, I thought we weren't supposed to be talking to Savai. So is Coach running like a buddy system here, like Boston Rob? Did Coach watch Boston Rob season and then decide to basically copy him strategically? At the immunity challenge, Jeff says there will be a twist at Tribal. Since this season is a 1-for-1 copy of season 22 format-wise, we know that this twist is just simply a double vote off, so why waste anyone's time? Sophie wins immunity, Dawn is then voted out, Sophie then wins immunity again, and Whitney is voted out, meaning all of Savai, minus Cochran, is gone. Speaking of Cochran, he says Upolu is a cult with how much they talk about family, and Coach is the cult leader. We also hear Jim Savai say this very blatantly, and I think that's why Coach was vilifying him earlier. Cochran then sees the writings on the wall. He's at the bottom. He is next. So he tries to guilt trip the Upolu tribe into keeping him over Edna. They're unmoved, except for Albert. Ozzy then eliminates Whitney and Dawn on Redemption, and back at camp, we see Brandon catch some scary looking fish, no problem, and it makes Cochran look like a wuss in comparison, as Cochran's like, hey look, I'm holding the fish, and Brandon's like, yeah dude, just hold the fish as I catch them. Albert then wins immunity, and again at tribal council, Cochran tries to guilt everyone, which causes Brandon to speak up.
Everybody here knows what's gonna happen with these two. That's why tonight I'm voting out Cochran, and then the next night my vote is for Edna. Let's try not to be so gray about it, just to get it out there, because I believe there is black and white. And I think if you're gray, then you might as well be lying.
Brandon, are you exhausted right now?
Yeah.
What has tried you the most in this game?
I want to do wrong things. I'm human. There's something stronger inside me that won't let me. Anything worth having is not going to be easy. So that's all I'm telling myself in my head. Anything worth having is not going to be easy.
Again, is Brandon right? Yes. Does he have to keep putting others down and making them feel like they have no hope? Apparently he thinks he does. I guess no one will fault him for lying to them, but I cannot see this garnering much favor with the jury either. So they all vote, and
13th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Cochran. Cochran. The tribe has spoken.
Jeez.
Just take the steps.
Yeah.
Episode 13 sees Edna feeling left out of the Upolu group, and she blames Brandon. Excuse me? Brandon is the one who gave you the heads up about this back in episode 4 and you ignored him, and now you're blaming him? Get out of here, Edna. This is on you. The bigger point here is that she's mad. She's taking out on everyone, but she definitely pointed out Brandon specifically. But now it's time for loved ones. Unfortunately for the show, Brandon's loved one is his dad and not Russell. I'm sure the show wanted that totally different, but no, it's gonna be his dad. As Brandon watches the video from his dad on the Sprint phone, his dad says, hey Brandon, don't worry about gameplay, just follow your heart, dude, follow your emotions. A very Disney-like message, I guess. It's quite supportive and the opposite of what I expected though. At the Redemption Island Arena, when he sees his dad, he cries. The music swells. He hugs him hard. And Jeff makes sure to point out to everyone that this is Russell Hantz's brother. Did you know that Russell Hantz played on Survivor? Survivor cannot get over Russell Hantz. There isn't an episode that goes by where Russell's name is not uttered once, it seems like. So Brandon, Coach, and Albert all get to spend time with their loved ones on Redemption, and
spit on $1 million, spit on the Soul Survivor. I'm not playing.
What are you here for then?
I'm here to set an example for Christ, bro. And I'm gonna play this game from here on out with honor, with integrity, and like Christ would play it.
At the end of the day, and you know that a move would put you into the final 3.
No.
Brandon, are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
You came here to win $1 million. Let's not lose
and it's
perspective.
Changed. It's changed, man.
And I just want you to make good decisions, not based off of the game so much. Make decisions based off of your heart. Do what your heart tells you.
If I had to grade Brandon on the way he's playing right now, I'd probably give him about a C. I don't know how he hasn't gotten voted off yet. He's got to begin to play the game and play it to win it.
It's the Hantz way, baby.
You've got to put yourself into this final 3.
I'm glad I came out here because Brandon really looks like he's not holding together well.
No, Albert's got to be.
Before I leave here, I'm telling him whatever you tell him to do, period.
Brandon Hantz's dad, a chip off the old block. They're all cut of the same cloth. Brandon's dad comes out here and basically tries to bully me into making sure that his son goes all the way to the end and wins $1 million. It's all about manipulation and control. And the Hantz family are the kingpins. But I'm not going to have anybody browbeat me and handcuff me into a final 3 alliance with Brandon. The kid's a loose cannon.
What did I just watch? What happened to the supportive father we saw in the video? Sean comes out and says, it's all about gameplay, which is a 180 from the video, and proceeds to guilt Brandon and undermine him. In my mind, absolutely nothing positive came out of this experience. I think Brandon would have been better off being not picked for this reward. That is how detrimental his father was. Wow. At the immunity challenge, Brandon strategically plays dumb, but it is all in service of blocking Edna from winning, which he says out loud. Come on, man. Coach wins immunity, and Brandon says Edna can be as mad as she wants, but he will be enjoying the 39-day breakfast without her. Dude, Brandon came out here to redeem the Hantz family name and instead is handling the jury just as poorly as his uncle. He then apologizes to Edna in a way that feels very insincere, and Sophie says Jesus is forgiving, but people are not, and Brandon seems to think people forgive like Jesus. So they all vote a tribal, and
14th person voted out.
Edna, that's 4. That's enough. Need to bring me your torch.
Edna, the tribe has spoken.
we slide into episode 14 with one question on our minds. Who is next? We all knew the boot order until the final 5, but now it's the final 5, so what happens? Who's next? Well, Brandon catches that chicken he lost many episodes ago, nice, and we hear from Albert about how honor and integrity mean nothing to him, which is terrible timing as Brandon talks to him about the final 3.
This is fate, man. This is God. We're in God's hands. It's gonna be okay, bro. The only thing that can spoil it right now is us. Just be strong, brother. I made an agreement with Albert, and I believe that to be 100%. And as long as me, Coach, and Albert stay the course, vote out Sophie will definitely be in control then, for sure, no matter what.
It is true, the only people who can spoil their final 3 are themselves. We then see Sophie pitch to Coach that they eliminate Brandon, so he is on redemption to face Ozzy. She doesn't want both Brandon and Ozzy in the game competing for immunity. Plus, she is worried that despite his us versus them demeanor, he might actually be the most honest out of everyone left, and he might look like the best to the jury. The jury might like him, and that is dangerous for her. Interesting. I guess amongst the scumbags left, minus Rick, who I barely know, Brandon does look good. We then see Albert talking to Coach about voting off Brandon, and
Brandon will win. Because when it gets down to the end, okay, you're good.
Good. A little bit nervous. What's the conversation?
Well, come on, man. Don't sound like Russell. We just told you what the conversation was. We're talking about jury votes. No, I'm just saying, don't tell me if we say one thing. I don't want you to come in here and try to bully us, man. Like, seriously, you've turned into a bully. We were just talking about jury votes and how the jury thinks. And then you say that that's not what we're thinking about. Don't play like that, man.
That definitely hurt my feelings, what you just said, bro.
Well, I know. I was just telling you the truth, man, because
I don't feel like I've acted like Russell the last couple of days.
The apple never falls far from the tree. And meeting your father was double confirmation of what I need to do for my next move.
Cheer up, brother.
I'm good, man. I can't eat any more coconut.
You sure?
Thanks.
Cheer up, man. God's got everything under control.
Wow, Coach gaslit Brandon hard. I didn't show you everything, but just know that Brandon's in the right and Coach is being a jerk. Brandon did nothing wrong and Coach manipulated him, which is nothing new at this point. Brandon then wins immunity, thanks Jesus, and has no idea he just saved his own hide from elimination. Back at camp, Rick tells Brandon that Albert promised him final 3, which annoys Brandon that Albert would lie and confronts him. Albert then lies again and again as he gets called out. Brandon is rightfully upset because Albert is lying and he's so scummy.
I just don't want you to close your heart on me, man. I feel like your heart's closed to me right now, man.
My heart's not close to you, brother. Everyone has lied in this game. Everyone. Even myself.
You're making me look like a bad dude. And I'm not a bad dude.
I'm not voting you. I just made up in my mind. Yeah, man. The reason I don't want to vote Albert out is because I see him. I see inside of him. I see that he may not have had the intentions that I think he had. And I strongly, strongly believe that Albert deserves to be here. If I have to, I'll give Albert my immunity. And Coach will not vote for me. Albert will not vote for me. And I'll vote for Sophie.
As I said before, Albert is so scummy, like the used car salesman cliche, or that guy who won season 5 minus shooting the puppy. Like Coach, Albert is deliberately taking advantage of Brandon's faith as a game move. Brandon talks to Coach and says, I am giving immunity to Albert, and I know you will never vote me out, Coach. And Coach goes, whoa, 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 whoa. You do that, and I will do what I need to, like kind of skirting answering the question, but in reality, we know what Coach is really going to do. At Tribal Council, immediately, without any hesitation, Brandon gives Albert immunity, and then
back home when I was in the, whole, I guess you would say, gang scene, whatever, a lot of my friends would be, bro, I got your back, I got your back. And I was always the kid to be extremely loyal to people, and people freaked out about, like, this dude would seriously step in front of a bullet for me or step in front of a knife for me. But the funny part about it is sometimes we'd get into a huge brawl with another rival, whatever you want to call it, and I'd be the only one standing there.
None of your friends would show up.
None of them would show up.
So it wasn't really a gang.
It was people taking my loyalty for, what they wanted to use it for and then leaving me hanging. And the funny part about it is I consider these two guys my best friends. We have a very solid connection with each other because of Christ inside of them. I was drawn to them, man. It wasn't by coincidence.
Albert, what's your take on this?
It blows my mind because when I got to this game, something told me that there's a bigger reason why I was here. And what makes Brandon's decision not look crazy is because we feel like our bond is real. That's the reason why I strayed away from some of the earlier bonds I had with a Rick or with a Sophie, because it was at a different level spiritually when I bonded with Brandon and when I bonded with Coach.
Wow. While that story was tragic, what's even more tragic is that is exactly what is happening here. It is clear Brandon is going, and Albert says, I am not giving him back the necklace because I think Brandon is safe tonight. An outright lie. Albert knows exactly what is about to happen. So they all go to vote, and
first vote, Brandon. Sophie. Brandon. We're tied. 2 votes Brandon, 2 votes Sophie, 1 vote left. 15th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Brandon. Brandon, tribe has spoken.
I am glad the necklace fell off of Albert's neck. It's very poetic. In spite of the vote off, Brandon is all smiles at redemption. Ozzy is still there as he has eliminated Cochran and Edno. I didn't really talk about it. Just know that Ozzy's running the gambit here. And then we hear from Ozzy an incredible read that makes perfect sense about Brandon. He says, Brandon plays Survivor like he's playing with God or even fellow Christians like himself. But in all reality, Brandon is playing with greedy human beings. True, very true. Ozzy then eliminates Brandon at the Redemption Island Arena, and here is the setup for Brandon's return because yes, Brandon will be playing Survivor again. He'll be doing it exactly 1 year after this season. So what you just saw took place in the summer of 2011. The show aired in the fall of 2011 where Brandon and his family got to witness how everyone manipulated and made him to look like a fool for 14 weeks, despite his good intentions. We then go to the finale, which is in December of 2011, and
it was unfortunately not everybody's happy, especially Russell. Nobody really accepted me the way that I wanted to.
Nobody from your family?
Nobody from my family. I mean,
is anybody here from your family?
No, sir. I don't think a lot of people are very proud of me, you know?
I think that he went out there to change something that I brought to the game. I made greatness. I brought the game to a level that is, you can't even comprehend.
What did Brandon do wrong?
Everything. He didn't do one thing right. He went out there to change the Hantz name, to change what I did. How do you do that?
Russell had to make it all about himself and put Brandon down, couldn't even support his own family member. No one from Brandon's family came to support him. Keep this in mind as he gets divorced in 2012 from his wife, I don't have an exact month for you on that one, who has 2 kids with him by then, and only 6 months after this finale and Russell does this on national TV takes place, he plays again. I just want to set you up for next time. So let's break this down. How is Brandon as a character? Tragic. Brandon is clearly a 19-year-old guy just trying to be a good person, but surrounded by bad role models in his uncle, father, and those he trusted on the show. I cannot even fathom the struggle because in my mind, Brandon is so easy to root for at times, but then other times you're like, come on, dude, I know you're just 19, but still, chill out. I really like Brandon in this season, but I am not unaware of all the issues and baggage he had as well, and it is a shame. Out of 42 character moments shown on the show, 27 were heroic and 15 were villainous, making Brandon a hero character on Survivor South Pacific. Now, how is Brandon as a strategist? The better question is, did he have a chance to win? Let's say he sits next to Albert and Rick, or Coach and Albert as he originally intended. Does Brandon win in any of those final 3s? I mean, I like Brandon. Even I, if I were on the jury, cannot see myself giving him $1 million because I think he would do the right thing with it, I just think he's surrounded by people who would take advantage of him. That's the issue. He seems to be easily manipulated by others and comes from a family that I presume are manipulators based on what we saw in his father and uncle. Brandon tried to play a straight game, but constantly spoke up when he really just needed to shut up more. Out of 43 strategic moments shown on the show, 18 were smart and 25 were dumb, making Brandon a dumb strategist on Survivor South Pacific. Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. I'll see you all next time.
My spirit is very high. I'm excited to be done. I don't have to stress about whether or not I have to lie to someone or tell somebody a half truth. I don't have to have that weighing on my shoulders. I did what I came here to do. I was an example for Christ, and I'll continue to be for the rest of my life. This has really changed the way I'm going to be a father, a brother, a husband, a son, and a man of God. And I've learned a lot. I've experienced everything but the final 3 breakfasts in this game. And I believe that when people got to know who's inside of Brandon, it didn't matter whether I was a Hantz or not.